The Season 3 update is finally here and a lot of things have changed, and so I'll be giving you guys the new best updated ranked play class setups. By the way, do you want that Orion camo but you're just a little bit too busy to grind through all 2,000 camos? If so, you should definitely check out Guapci. Guapci provides weapon leveling services, camo unlock services, challenge unlock services such as the Warzone Nuke and many more for all the platforms. So the first weapon I want to go over this is going to be the BAS-P, which actually just got a buff that increased the ADS strafe speed, I believe, and then they increased all the damage ranges. So now it's going to take less shots at range to kill the enemy, although I don't really know if this gun is going to be meta. I'm waiting for exclusive Aces video to come out, but if you want to use it in ranked play, this is the setup you want to use. There is going to be a little bit of recoil on the weapon, so if you're using this and you're like, damn, I suck with this, I need some more recoil control, then I would swap out this underbarrel for the phase 3 grip. Yeah, do the phase 3 grip. This is going to add a lot of recoil control. And say you still suck with the BAS-P, then you might actually want to take out the spiral flash hider, which the reason we run the spiral flash hider is because it adds so much horizontal recoil control, and so there's basically zero horizontal recoil on the weapon. There's only vertical, and the vertical is very easy to control, plus that muzzle is going to really hurt the ADS. But if you use the Broken Pendulum, this is going to hurt your ADS speed more, but you're going to have more recoil control, leading you to have a very accurate weapon. And as you guys can see, a little bit of a slower ADS, but there is way less recoil in the weapon, making it a lot easier to use. With all that said, this is a very good BAS-P setup, and if you do want a little bit more mobility, like you're very good at the game, you want to swap out the underbarrel for the shark fin, and then you want to use the spiral flash hider, so then you have a little bit more mobility. For the next weapon we are going to be going over, this is going to be the VAZNEV 9K, which actually just got a nerf in the Season 3 update. They basically removed a lot of the headshot multipliers, so now you're not going to be able to kill the enemies as quick, which overall I think is a W change. The reason for that is because usually when the enemy hits the head, or if you hit the head on the enemy, that is kind of a luck thing. Nobody's aiming for the head. You're always aiming for like the center chest, and sometimes your bullets hit the head, leading you to kill the enemy a little bit quicker. But since there's so much luck involved, it brings down the fair play. But let me know in the comments, are you happy it got nerfed, or do you wish it didn't get nerfed? What they really should do is just completely eliminate the headshot multiplier from the game. Then we could use so many more weapons in ranked, like the KASTOV 762. That weapon only got GA'd, like banned from ranked play, because of the 2-shot headshot. But if there was no headshot multiplier in the game, then every gunfight would feel way more fair and we could use more weapons. With all that said though, this is going to be overall the best VAZNEV. I just have it labeled as scumps because I was making a scump video, but this is the meta setup that every pro player, good player, is using on the game. Although for the stock there is another option. If you want more mobility and you don't mind losing a little bit more recoil control, then I would use the broadside, but overall more people are running the Ultra Zat. Then for the underbarrel, make sure you run the True Tack grip. This is very crucial, increases the overall mobility of the weapon. For the underbarrel, some people do run the Commando foregrip. If you do want more recoil control, I would definitely do that, but it is going to hurt the ADS speed, which if you're very good at the game, you don't really need more recoil control. So of course you're going to value the mobility over that recoil control, and so only use the Commando if you find yourself missing shots. And then lastly, for the muzzle, for some people this is a kind of a hard muzzle to use. Basically this is going to eliminate all the horizontal on the weapon, then you're not going to really get any vertical recoil control, and so that's why for some people it is kind of hard to run. And so with that said, some people run the Broken Pendulum. This is going to give you way more overall recoil control, you know, the balance between the vertical and the horizontal, but you are going to be losing more ADS speed, and so this is a personal preference thing. And then for the last attachment, you guys actually can run a barrel if you want. More good players do not run a barrel because we are very good at positioning ourselves within like 5 to 10 meters, but you know, we're not all pro players. Even me, I kind of struggle with this at times, and so if you add a barrel, the cost barrel, this is going to severely increase that damage output, heavily reducing the amount of hit markers you get at range. I feel like overall most people, unless you're in like diamond or crimson, then you are gonna like this gun with a barrel. And then once you get good with the gun with the barrel, then maybe you can take off the barrel and take advantage of the high mobility. For the next weapon I want to go over, this is going to be the VAL 46, otherwise known as the MP7. This is such a good weapon because it has a very good damage range, not that much recoil. It looks like there's a little bit of recoil, but overall there's not that much. And then you have a lot of mobility, leading you to be able to completely pop off with the weapon. Like, I believe this MP7 has more mobility than the VAZNEV. And so basically, here's the class that we are running. I will be giving you Shotzzy's class after this, but this is the more common setup, and this is my personal favorite. With this setup, we are going to be running a barrel, because without the barrel, there's not that much damage range. And so when you add the barrel, it's going to make the weapon feel very, very good. And then for the underbarrel, this is a very underrated underbarrel, the Bruin Sync Shot Grip. This is basically going to eliminate all the sway on the weapon, and the MP7 has a lot of sway, and so this is going to eliminate all that sway. Plus, we get some hipfire accuracy, and across the board, I believe every SMG got a buff to the hipfire accuracy, and so now this thing should feel even better. But say you are struggling to hit your shots with this weapon, then you might want to add the actually not the shark fin, you might want to add the Commando 4. This is going to add a lot of recoil control without hurting the mobility that much. For me though, I'm just going to be running the Bruin, and then for the magazine, because in ranked play you don't really need 40 rounds, 30 rounds is perfectly fine, so you just want to run the 30 round mag. And so now you are going to get so much mobility, you're going to be a creamy lad on the field, and then you're only going to lose a couple bullets. So with all that said, this is the most popular MP7 setup, and I believe Shotzzy, he actually takes off the barrel, then he runs the Edge 47 or the Commando. I'm pretty sure it's the Commando, and so I think this is Shotzzy's class. So this next weapon I want to go over, this is going to be the KASTOV 545, and if you play on keyboard and mouse, this is probably going to be your favorite setup to use in ranked. So here's the full overview of the class, and as you guys can see, there is a little bit of a trend with the classes. You basically kind of just want to use attachments that aren't going to hurt the weapon in any way. You only want to use the attachments to kind of fine tune the weapon. I think I previously mentioned that, and so that's why we're running like the shark fin, because this is going to add a lot of aiming stability, removing the sway on the weapon, and there's going to be 0 cons. If you do want more recoil control, then I would run the Commando 4 grip. You're just going to have a little bit of a slower ADS. And then for the muzzle, the muzzles are personal preference. For me, I like the FJX. I've seen like Octane run the Kamado Heavy. I've seen Scump run the RF Crown. I've seen Celium run the X10 Ported. There really isn't that much of a difference between each of the muzzles. I just found more people running the Fulcrum, and for me, I like the Fulcrum. And then for the ammo, I know Exclusive Ace did make a video proving high velocity does nothing, but it is going to improve the hit registration. So it's not going to necessarily make the bullets leave your gun and hit the enemies faster. It's just going to make them register a little bit better, overall making the game run better, which is a very weird thing in my opinion. Pretty sure the game should just run very good without the high velocity, but that's just what you got to do on Call of Duty. And then for the rear grip, obviously we're running the True Tag grip, and for the stock, if you want more mobility, run the Pro Light or the Broadside. And now we are going to be going over the God tier AR that actually just got a buff in this update. Yes, a freaking buff. So now this weapon is going to have a quicker ADS, and that's basically the whole buff. All the heavy barrels in the game are now not going to hurt your ADS speed as much, and as you guys can see, this setup has no recoil. There is 3 different setups for the weapon. I'll quickly go over all of them so it's not too confusing. This is going to be the medium ranged build. Basically, for every single attack build, you pretty much want to run the Tundra Pro barrel. This is going to severely increase the damage output, and this is needed because, say an enemy is running the barrel and you guys are fighting at range, for them it might take 3 shots to kill you. For you, it's going to take 4 shots, so then you'll be at complete disadvantage. Plus, now it's really not hurting the mobility, and so please run a barrel on your TAC 56. And then another must-have attachment is going to be the high velocity, although since it doesn't really do much, it only improves the hit registration. You actually could take off the high velocity, then you can add the clean shot grip, which is going to increase the overall mobility. We are losing recoil control, but you're not going to notice that. So the attachments that you can swap out based on your preference is going to be the muzzle, the underbarrel, or the cardinal stock. So on the stock, you can run the X line, which is going to give you a lot of ADS speed, but then it's going to hurt your recoil control. So then maybe for your underbarrel, you got to run like the Commando 4 grip, but then you're kind of like, you're losing ADS speed with the Commando, and then you're gaining ADS speed with the X line, so it doesn't really make sense, which is why I like to run the cardinal stock, which is going to make the weapon feel more fluid without having really any cons. And then we are losing aim and stability, but to bring that back up, we are running the shark fin, which is gonna really make the weapon stable. Say you are using this weapon though and you're just missing so many shots, then I would run the Commando 4 grip. Then if you still are missing lots of shots, try out the Edge 47 or the F-Tac Ripper. With all that said though, this is the build that I'm usually going to use on any scenario. scenario, if I am playing on a very small map and I need to play aggressive, I'm probably going to take off the Fulcrum Pro, then I'm going to go over to the rear grip and I'm going to throw on the clean shot grip. And so now I'm going to have a lot of damage range, we're going to have a lot of mobility, we're going to get the recoil control, and the weapon's going to feel very good. And then say I'm playing on a massive map like Embassy or that stupid map El Asilo, I will probably use my long range build, or even if I'm on search and I'm just trying to play back and just, you know, hold lanes and everything, then I'm probably going to be running this build. The reason I like the Camo heavy is because at long range you are going to really notice the horizontal recoil on the weapon. You are also going to notice a lot of the vertical recoil, but the vertical is very easy to control. You just pull down on your right stick. With the horizontal, that is bouncing left to right, which is very hard to control. And so that at long range, I found the Camo to be very helpful on the weapon. And then everything else is basically the same. One thing I actually used to do, this is crazy, but I used to run the Edge 47. I would really pop off with this build, but the mobility is atrocious. And just before we get into the other setups, I just want to show you guys how I lay out these classes. So we all know the VAZNEV and the TAC are the best. So I have two preset classes for both of them. Basically the same VAZNEV on here, and then I got my search TAC, which is that slower one if I'm going to be running the dead silence, and then I got one with the trophy if I'm going to be playing like respawn. And then for the VAZNEV, sometimes I need to have a trophy and sometimes I need to have the dead silence, and so if I have two different classes, it helps me easily swap between the two when I'm in the middle of a match. For this next build I want to go over, this is going to be the LACHMANN sub, which this is one of the meta weapons in ranked play. I believe it has the fastest time to kill if you are in the enemy's face, which as you guys can see, this setup has a very snappy ADS. There's absolutely zero recoil, and the only thing that holds this weapon back is the damage range. There really isn't that much damage range on the weapon, but at close range it does kill very quick. So again, for the class, if you want more recoil control, then run the Bruin Pendulum, but for me I like the Flash Hider. Then again, for the underbarrel, if you want more recoil control, run the Shark Fin 90, not the Shark Fin 90. Wait, is there no commando on this gun? So I guess if you want more recoil control, then I would run the Phase 3 grip. That's going to make the weapon feel pretty good, but for me I would rather have a snappier weapon, so I'm going to run the Shark Fin. And then for the barrel, we are going to be running the Falcon barrel to bring up the overall mobility, because in the Season 2 Reloaded update they brought down the mobility, so now we get that back. And then also to get a little bit more mobility, it's really not hurting the weapon. Like, it seems like this is hurting the weapon, but you just saw it when I was shooting those targets, there really isn't any recoil on the weapon. This is just going to make the weapon very stable and make it snappier. And then lastly, for the rear grip, I'm going to be running the Cronus grip, so if the enemies are shooting at me, my screen isn't going to shake as much. If you do want more recoil control, feel free to run the LACHMANN TCG. It's just for me, I like that Cronus grip. So for the last setup I want to go over, this is going to be the intervention. I was going to use the SPX, but I believe that this thing might be even a little bit better. It seems like you get less hit markers, but it also seems like it has a little bit of a slower ADS. But in ranked play, you know, all the snipers are by default like pretty overpowered. This reminds me of like a better version of the MCPR. So the class I am running on this, I do really recommend you guys to swap out the optic for the DXS. It makes the weapon feel way more mobile. Like, it says it brings down the ADS speed, but I swear it increases the ADS speed. The weapon feels so much better with this optic. But say you like the default scope, then I wouldn't waste a attachment on the optic, and I would actually use this last attachment maybe on the ammunition. I would add the high velocity to improve the hit registration. But for me, I really like this optic. And then we got this stock on here, which is going to add a lot of stability, which is going to be very helpful in ranked play because you are going to be hard scoping a lot, and so now there's not going to be as much sway on the weapon, although this isn't really needed. So if you want, you can take this off to add the high velocity. Then for the bolt, we are running the blast just to increase the rechambering speed, makes it so you can fire your bullets a little bit quicker one after each other. And then for the rear grip, you want to run the Skull 40, which is going to increase the overall mobility of the weapon. We are losing some flinch resistance, which that is annoying, and I did try out the CP60 grip, but then the weapon felt very clunky. Even though you aren't really running around quick scoping, the weapon felt so clunky, and so I don't really like to run the CP. I prefer the Skull. And then I believe that is going to wrap it up for the overall build. So here is a screenshot of that, and I hope you guys did find this video helpful. If you did find it helpful, a like is greatly appreciated, and if you want to get better at the game, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below.